So next on our list of jumpstarts, we are going to be talking about Ziga.
Story by Roku Osano and art by Kentaro Hidano.
So essentially, Ziga is it's a kaiju manga. You know, if you've ever seen any like Godzilla movies, Gomora movies, Mothra, whatever, if you've seen Rampage, I don't know. It is a kaiju movie. So that's like the long and short of it. But if you want like, I guess specifics, it's about this kid who basically he keeps having these like really vivid dreams about this giant monster attacking his city. And it basically turns out that these dreams are prophetic in that eventually this monster known as Zigga eventually shows up and destroys his town, and unfortunately losses are suffered. I don't know if that's a sentence. He loses a friend or two in the destruction of the city, and essentially he joins up with this organization that has basically been tasked to study the monster and stop it. And that's essentially the plot from there. It's a pretty simple story, I think, but like, I don't know. I don't feel like I have much to say about this one other than I'm totally okay with, reading a kaiju manga week to week, and I want to see Zigga do more cool shit.
I like the idea of a kaiju manga, but Zigga didn't necessarily enthrall me. I think that it has to do with how it's being paced and also the character of Ko himself. I think that Ko is just too perfect right now in terms of being talented at just so many things, being able to use the flash wave gun right off the bat, just having all this real natural talent. And then we skip forward all the training stuff in chapters 3 to the point where now he's just going to be going off to fight in battle. And that training stuff could have been really interesting, and it could have helped build character, have him struggle a little bit early on. But I just feel that things are just going too well for this kid. And, I mean, in terms of him becoming a soldier and becoming a really good soldier, like, he seems already very skilled and capable. I mean, obviously his situation is not very happy. He lost his mom, he lost his girlfriend, supposedly. For all we know, that arm isn't hers. I could totally expect a twist happen where she shows up later down the line.
Maybe like she is like somebody steals the charm that like he gave her, and that was the person that got vaporized. That would be the funniest shit.
Yeah, perhaps. Or she just lost that arm, but she's still alive somewhere. Who knows?
Maybe.
So we'll see about that. We didn't see a body for sure, so we can speculate that Sarah could come back at some point. But yeah, I mean, I'm not that into Ko as a character, because one of the things that, really made Attack on Titan stand out, and Attack on Titan is the series I was thinking about the most while reading this, is that Attack on Titan starts out with such a desperate situation, because humanity has been called to just a few select numbers all living behind these walls, or at least that's what we thought at that time. And so when the Colossal Titan appears and wrecks everything, and all the Titans are coming in and like totally devours everyone in that town, and then like the sheer horror and desperation when like Aaron's mom is being eaten by that Titan, and like he's just screaming out, and it's like he watches it right in front of his eyes, his mom being eaten. And so right at that moment you can feel, oh my god, this is such a fucked situation. Holy crap. And you can be in Aaron's shoes and like why he's so angry and furious, because he could do nothing to save his mom, and he watched her get eaten, couldn't do anything. And like his entire home was destroyed. Everything is going to hell. And then, when he goes into training, he sucks at it at first. He's like not one of the best soldiers at all. So, he has all this rage and anger, but he's not a perfect warrior. He's not a perfect soldier, and he loses so many people around him. And like his first real battle with the Titan, he himself gets eaten. Like, I'm just thinking about that and comparing Eren to Ko. And like Eren started off from such a lower point, and because he started off with such a lower and more desperate point, it was easier to get behind him. And like, because the situation was just so much more dire, it was also like easier to be enthralled by like the tension and horror of the series. But here with Ziga, Ziga destroys the city, but like, I didn't get as much of a sense of like Ko's connection with the city. I didn't feel the relationship with the mom as strongly, and like the sadness and horror when the mom died as much. Like,
yeah, that felt somehow that kind of felt out of nowhere. Like, oh, I guess she's dead too.
Yeah, I mean, because he wasn't even there. The mom died when Zigga did the beam thing, and so he just visits the home afterwards, and there's no body to speak of. So, he and his reaction just isn't as like desperate and insane. Even with Amagi, I just didn't feel it was. I mean, I thought the connection, was there. I got it, but it was just not as powerful. It didn't feel like a punch in the gut. So it's just Ko right now is just not really getting me into it. I just don't feel like the situation is looking as bad for humanity in general right now in the world as Zigga. Because yeah, Zigga's wrecking stuff, but it seems that they can keep it on the down low for now, so it's not gotten that bad yet. And it doesn't seem like Zigga is going to go off to destroy all of Japan just yet, because a bunch of months pass where I guess they're not fighting Zigga at all while Ko is training. So I mean, I'm sure there'll probably be more kaiju in the future. I'm sure one of the big twists is going to be the kaiju are actually people. There's this mysterious girl wearing a big hat with a flower on it and has an umbrella, who's asking Ko,
what was her deal?
What are you seeing, the future or fate? And it's she's a mysterious character who's probably connected with Zigga in some way. So there's probably going to be an organization involved. It's just, so there's a bunch of stuff that's probably going to happen, but I just don't feel I mean, they didn't really set up a conspiracy thing to be as right now, and I just don't feel the setting is as interesting. It's just, I don't know. I just am not I like the idea of a kaiju manga, but I don't feel the ideas presented here are that interesting. Compared with the original Godzilla and being a metaphor for Godzilla is representing nuclear weaponry and its consequences and how awful that situation is. It's not. And then Shin Godzilla 50 years later is about Japan's non-militant stance and its place in international politics and how it's dealing with nuclear fallout as after the consequences of the Fukushima disaster and all this bigger political ideas, that's what makes that stuff stand out and makes it interesting. And then I don't know what Zigga is really saying outside of being a giant monster, it's wrecking shit, but I don't know. It's just the Zigga isn't that cool yet, I guess. To just work in a Pacific Rim kind of way, where it's oh yeah, cool monsters. Let's beat them up. So I don't know. I think a lot of people really like Zigga. At least that's what I saw. A lot of people really liked Zigga when the first chapters came out, but with each successive chapter, I was less interested in it.
I think I totally understand where you're coming from, because it's I guess if you still want to keep the Attack on Titan comparisons going, there's that level of desperation isn't really fully there. Yeah, the stakes aren't as high, even though Ko clearly suffers loss. You don't really feel that much. I mean, I was kind of shocked when that moment where he finds his supposed girlfriend's severed arm. I thought that was kind of shocking, but like you said, there could easily be a twist there where it's oh, she was alive all along. But I guess the moment at face value I thought was shocking. And then I don't know, I guess the way I saw it, like, since I kind of knew what the series was going to be before I read it today for the podcast, like, I guess, like, because I saw it as, like, a kaiju thing, like, I kind of had this expectation where it's like, you know, I'm not a big authority on, like, kaiju movies or whatever, but I know about those kinds of movies enough to where it's like, okay, so the human characters aren't going to be as interesting because they're not entirely the focus. You're kind of here just to see monsters destroy shit and do cool shit. And so that's kind of the mindset I had going in reading this. And because of that, you know, I was okay with the characters being sort of simple or not as interesting. I think Ko could be a little more interesting. There is this kind of thing where it's like, oh, he's perfect at everything. Like, he could draw well and swim well. And it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't really care. So in that aspect, I think he could have struggled a bit more, I guess. But, like, again, personally, I'm like, I know with these kinds of things, I mostly just expect, hey, as long as the monster destroys stuff, I'm totally fine with most things. Which, I mean, come on. I couldn't help but, like, just spaz out when he, like, starts throwing laser beams out of his hands and starts disintegrating people. Like that's the kind of stuff where, like, you know, if you have that kind of stuff in your manga, you pretty much have me. Like, there are some series where it doesn't really take a lot to keep me interested. Like, I'm totally okay with just cool shit happening for the sake of cool shit. But I also agree that, yeah, like, as far as, like, an emotional connection goes, I wasn't really feeling it. I'm hoping we get to see Ko, like, I guess, suffer more of a loss later on, or just see him struggle more. Like, it would be nice to not see him, you know, just be the perfect soldier or just always so composed and stoic all the time. Like, it would be nice to see him, again, just struggle more. I think it would make for a more impactful story, I think.
Mm-hmm. I'd have been fine with the human characters being simple if the focus wasn't so much on them. Because the focus is squarely on Ko and him joining this organization, realizing he has these special powers and stuff. And Ziga is not in the chapters that much. And honestly,
just like some of the Godzilla movies.
Yeah, and, like, those aren't very interesting Godzilla movies. Like, the ones that focus, that, besides the first one in Shin Godzilla, like, of the ones I've seen, like, the ones that are about the humans and not on Godzilla as much are just not as interesting when they're just, like, fluff and the human character's story doesn't have something more interesting behind it, or like human characters aren't as interesting. And, like, I'm not feeling that here with Ziga at all. Like, you know, if Ziga was more about Ziga, the creature, and, like, we saw more of it, and, like, it did, like, way more impressive stuff when it was destroying that city, like, sure, blasting a beam out of its hand, it's fine. But, like, I don't know, it just came to the city, it just, destroyed some buildings. Of course, the military couldn't do squat to it. Yeah, it's pretty standard. But, like, what's really cool about Ziga? You know what? Well, how could it wreck that city in a really interesting way? I just didn't really feel like it did anything that impressive that I, couldn't get out of, like, a Godzilla movie where there was a ton of crazy shenanigans. And, like, in the first movie in Shin Godzilla, when Godzilla does something, it's horrifying, When it's just Godzilla's destroying something, like, you feel shocked and horrid, it's, like, disturbing. And then, like, in other Godzilla movies, like the ones for the kiddies, it's like Godzilla does wacky stuff, and that's fun. But it doesn't do it. I don't feel like it goes far in any of the extremes. It's just kind of like, oh, it's destroying stuff, but it's not over the top in either direction in a way that'd be really, really engaging to me.
I don't know. I thought the disintegration beam was pretty cool, but that's just me.
I mean, it is kind of cool that soldier guy's head explodes, that is cool, but like I need more of that, that's the first chapter, and then chapters 2 and 3 is just Ko, and then they just fight this weird shark-tooted creature that's like the things they fight and all you need is kill, but it's not, it's just whatever. It's not Ziga. It's not a kaiju. It's just some monster.
It's a mini Ziga.
Yeah, it's not even that.
Really.
It's not even a dragon thing. So it's like, well, it's a creature.
Yeah, on it. Like, I think your criticisms are all totally valid. That being said, I feel like personally, I could see myself either like if this were to get picked up in Viz's Jump, I would probably read it week to week, but also probably get tired of it after a couple of chapters, depending on how the story goes. So I could either see myself doing that, or again, I would rather let more chapters of this build up if it continues at the pace it's going.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I didn't dislike Ziga, but I just was not very impressed by it, and it did kind of disappoint me because I thought the idea of a kaiju manga would be super cool. I like Bono, the director of the military group that, he joins, because he has a good character design. I like that his sunglasses are meant to hide the fact that he has, like, really tired and scary eyes. That's kind of fun. I like his assistant, who's, like, this really serious, professional soldier. That's kind of nice. But, I don't know. Ko himself, just not that interesting. And Ziga was not that cool to me. Honestly, I felt that between the three, this was probably the one I was least interested in. I don't know.
Really? Even compared to Jujutsu Kaisen?
Yeah, honestly, because I kind of got won over by Yuji's, like, shonen optimism, shonen, like, spirit of, like, wanting to help people and stuff. I also liked kind of like some of the stuff in there, the dynamic with Sukuna. Even though he was a Kakashi ripoff, I did like Gojo. He was kind of fun. So, I thought, I don't know, I just was more interested in those characters and, like, the ideas that series was presenting than what Zigga is currently presenting. But, that could change in the future. We'll see if these series continue forward.
But I guess overall, I thought Zigga was okay, and I would probably maybe read more of it. So, Sid, I think we can both agree that Noah's Notes is the best one, though, right?
Oh, yes, of course. Without question.
Oh, man. Yeah, but I think overall this round of Jumpstarts I thought was interesting. Definitely a lot of variety between the three.
Yeah, I mean, they were all pretty different, and they all had a unique premise. So they all stood out in their own ways. I get for most people, Jujutsu Kaisen stood out the least, but I kind of liked it more than Ziga. But again, I thought all of them had good elements to them. I am interested in seeing like how they fare out. But the one I'm rooting for the most is Noah's Notes.
Me too.
That definitely stood out the most to me. And kind of like Act Age a few months ago is like something that I'm really, really hoping finds an audience and hits its stride so I can read more of it. I didn't feel as strongly towards Noah's Notes as I did Act Age, but I still am really, really excited for it. I really want Haruto Ikezawa to have a real hit on his hands, so I'm really pulling for it, and I hope it does well.